the superior vena cava collects all the blood, as Dr. Goff said, and coming back to the heart. So it's quite sizable here. So this is the venous return system, and there's an inferior vena cava that comes up, and they join together, going into the right atrium of the heart. So some of the things that we've been talking about, I thought I'd just give a brief discussion about that. This is Franklin Roosevelt when they started the National Institutes of Health. So I don't know if you all know what is the National Institutes of Health, but this is the current picture of this is the original clinical center at the National Institutes of Health. And over here is the hospital where the president gets his physicals and things done. And this is in Bethesda, Maryland. This is the Naval Hospital across the street. And the people that owned this land that was given to the government owned a brick factory. They made their money in bricks. And so this building was all out of brick. And it was the largest brick building in the free world at the time. The codes and everything for hospitals changed so dramatically that it was virtually impossible to renovate that hospital. So this is the current hospital. They had to build another hospital. But to show you, this is what all of these different parts of the different institutes and centers within the NIH. And let's see, where's NIDK? Here's the one that Dr. Goff was talking about, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Disease. Here's the newest institute, which is the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering. The institute I worked in was the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So you've heard of the National Cancer Institute, the National Eye Institute, and all that. We'll post this so you can take a look. But that's what we're talking about, where you can get SBIR funding at the National Institutes of Health. I actually wrote the first announcement for SBIR funding when I was there. I helped bring the concept. It started at the National Science Foundation, and when I heard about it, I thought it was really important for Dave's company. Although we didn't know each other.
Yeah, thank you.
But the idea of getting undiluted funds, as Dr. Goff said several times.
Every person in the United States has contributed 2 cents to my company. Mechanism. Taxpayers.
I was actually in a institute in Russia, the Shazov Cardiovascular Institute there, where at the time when it was part of the Soviet Union, they had one day a year where everybody's salary, instead of going to them, went to this institute. Because he was the doctor for, not Gorbachev, but one of whoever was the head of the Communist Party at that time, directed that he would get his funding one day a year would come from that amount of rubles. So one point I wanted to make about the curriculum is as you come up, begin to develop the strategic focus. Say it is in diabetes. Now, when you go into the physiology and anatomy course, you can emphasize that in those studies. And we'll have Dr. Cabrales come to class so you can get to know him. I'll be there as well. And so you can go in deeper into an area where you're particularly interested. That's part of why this is set up that way. The same thing goes with biomechanics, if that's important to an area that you're going into. We hope that'll filter through all of the courses, as you can tell from, and also the need to attend some national meeting associated with what you're interested in, like some of the conferences, and also begin to get introduced to the journals, like Science Translational Medicine, the one that Dr. Gall just published in not too long ago. Oh,
That's the desktop.
that's a desktop, isn't it? So I just, this is another implantable device. So I'll talk later about how this was created for ventricular assistance for the maintaining blood flow. But you know, it started out, it was a big device. And eventually, now this not only is it this small, but it just fits right up in the side of the heart and sewn right in the base of the heart. But how things can be reduced in size, but it's not necessary that you build a business out of making implantable systems, but it's potentially, here's an example of a person that came up, so you get your foot operated on, and you know, you're a single person, so it came up with this concept of how you can get around your house while your foot's being repaired. They rent these out, so there's just sort of a single website for the whole country. You rent one, it shows up at your front door, and you use it for a month or 6 weeks, whatever you need it. Yeah.
Don't suppose you have the links. My wife just snapped her fibula 2 days ago.
Can I have a scooter?
I don't, but I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah.
I know the website. Well, my wife broke her ankle about 3 months ago. She has been looking at those for a long time, but I have to say she refused to try it because she says she does not feel confident in that position. So.
My sister, who is 4 years my senior, she heard about this. She had went through a neuronal removal in her foot. You know, these get tumors, and so they're quite simple to remove, but it's quite painful recovery. And her husband has passed away. She got along fabulously with this, and you know, banged around her house, but she didn't have to try to go on crutches or anything like that, and so she was quite happy with it. It showed up at her door. She used it for a while, put it back in the box, and used the return thing and shipped it back. And so this guy's running a business with a fairly elegant solution to a persistent problem. One of the ones that another one I'm sure that Dave knows much more about than I do is this concept of putting a insulin delivery patch on your arm that lasts for what, a week or so, or a week to 2 weeks, and then controlling it with a wireless system. One of my colleagues had an insulin pump, did fabulously well with it, and thought this would be an advance, and started using it. The big problem with it was calibrating. It takes like 12 hours to calibrate. And so once a week then, or once every 10 days, he was faced with calibrating it. And it won't operate until it gives you a signal that it is actually calibrated and ready to go. So he was finding that he'd go 12 hours and he'd have to be up till, 11:30, 12:30 at night, and then it would say, didn't calibrate. So he ditched the system and went back to an implantable pump. But on the surface, I mean, it looks like a great idea. And I don't know. I won't go over this today, but just to, you may want to take a look at it. If you go to this is the American Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering. You can go to this site, and this is a honorary society in terms of its 2% of the elected biomedical and biological engineers have been elected to this institute, and Dave and I are both been elected to the institute. Well, we started what's called the MDE Hall of Fame. So these are the medical devices, mostly medical devices, and some biological engineering achievements that have been introduced into the Hall of Fame, and I'll not today, but another time, show you how all that came about. The purpose in bringing this to your attention is it's something I think that represents you, and it's something to aspire to see someday, something you're interested in, being in the Hall of Fame. But I think there are things that you can easily recognize, that this is not innovations, but rather things that have been invented and then taken into general clinical use and show significant improvement in quality of life. So we want to try to give you this encapsulation of what's going on. So during the time that you're here, you'll find that the different case studies we go into, people will be coming at things from a little different angle about how things are accomplished. So you'll have to decide what's going to work best for you in the long run. Rules, for instance, and I'll close with this story, and that's how body mass index came to be. That my institute, the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, was asked to come up with the guidelines on body mass index. Now, why would the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute be asked to do that? I don't know the reason that, but anyway, it was assigned to the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. So they teamed with NIDDK to put together a group of physicians and other scientists, and I don't know if there was an engineer on that panel. It's one of the problems. It's usually sort of left out that there be an engineer involved. There may or may not be, and you may know. I don't know. But in any case, this guidelines have been pretty well worked up, and like the strategic plan that Dr. Golf showed you, the guidelines had been prepared, and then one of the members of the from NIDDK was not in agreement with the guidelines. And so she went to hold news conferences with the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and other places to when you sign up for one of these committees, you say everything's going to be confidential, and so she was breaking confidentiality and was going to go to have these news conferences and to protest the guidelines. So at the time, I happened to be the acting director of the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute because I was the deputy director for a period of time, and the director was in Europe. And so I was faced with this situation of having the guidelines being disrupted from being introduced because of these news conferences. So one of the things that I learned from the Clinton administration was to respond to things within 24 hours. That's one of the things that the Clinton White House did very well. When something came out in the newspaper, they came out with some sort of position on it, and I always thought that was quite effective. So I was, to tell you the truth, I was very ambivalent because I think the whole concept of body mass index makes it difficult to deal with things like prevention. Because, you know, it's for someone to look at you and say, you know, your body mass index is so-and-so, and you need to change that. And so what are you talking about? Weight, you can understand. So I was, but I had no choice. I had to introduce the guidelines. And so I met with all the people that were involved, and we contacted the chairman of this committee. I think there were two chairpersons, and we then held our own news conferences, and there was no problems in actually introducing it. But regretfully, we're stuck with the body mass index guidelines, and so I hope someday it's easier to understand, because I think it's where it's, if you will, been over-engineered. Engineers didn't produce the body mass index, but it would be much better if it was just called, just dealt with weight guidelines. Then I don't know if you have a thought about that or not, but in any case, that's what we have, and that's how it got to be like it is. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, and if you have anything come up, you know, contact Dr. Goff, myself, Faye, Linda, Peter, whoever you want to bring up with any ideas or thoughts, and we'll. I'm sure by the next time we'll have this website available and the information on it. Okie doke.